Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's jump right in. Think about the exact moment a medication molecule actually enters your body. It triggers this incredibly complex journey. We're talking about a highly precise sequence of biological timing, massive chemical transformations, and some major physiological hurdles. I mean, have you ever popped an ibuprofen and wondered, how does this little thing know exactly where my headache is? It's wild to think about, right? Obviously, there's no microscopic GPS in there. It's not magic. The whole thing relies entirely on these highly calculated laws of chemistry and biological affinity.
Now, to really grasp this, we need to look at the interplay between two massive concepts. First, we have pharmacokinetics. Basically, that's what your body does to the drug. And then there's pharmacodynamics, which is how your body biologically responds to it. These two mechanisms, they're working in tandem with every single dose you take.
If we look closer at pharmacodynamics, it works a lot like a lock and key system. Think of the drug molecule as the key. It's cruising around, exhibiting this unique affinity for a very specific receptor site on a target cell. That's your lock. Once that perfect binding occurs, boom, the physiological response is triggered. And that right there is exactly how a drug exerts its specific effect on you.
So here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the journey of a pill. 2, absorption. 3, distribution. 4, metabolism. And finally, number 5, age factors.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the journey of a pill.
So, every single drug you take goes through 4 basic stages. Research scientists usually abbreviate this as the ADME framework. That's ADME, which stands for absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. We're going to follow this exact sequence today.
Moving right along to Section 2, absorption, entering the system.
When you swallow an oral medication, it faces some pretty treacherous obstacles right out of the gate. You know, as it travels down the gastrointestinal tract, it gets bombarded by stomach enzymes. But the absolute biggest hurdle? That would be the liver's first pass effect. The liver acts like this incredibly strict border guard, literally deactivating a huge chunk of the drug before it ever has a chance to reach your general circulation. And actually, this is exactly why your doctor might prescribe multiple doses of a medication. They just need to make sure enough of that drug survives the gauntlet to do its job.
So how do we sneak past that strict liver border guard? Well, have you ever wondered why putting a patch on your skin can cure a headache or stop motion sickness? It's because this transdermal route completely bypasses that first pass effect. The drug slips right into the blood through this tiny meshwork of capillaries in your skin. It gives you this nice, slow, steady delivery straight into the bloodstream. It's a total game changer. Though, it is worth noting that this only works for super small drug molecules that can actually physically penetrate your skin.
It's a similar story if you inhale a drug through your respiratory system. Think about an asthma inhaler. That allows for exceptionally rapid absorption. The medication bypasses the GI tract entirely. It skips the liver and travels straight into the alveoli of your lungs. Talk about a highly efficient shortcut, right? It just mainlines the medication straight into your bloodstream.
Which brings us to Section 3, distribution, riding the bloodstream.
Now that we're in the bloodstream, I want you to picture something. Think of circulating plasma proteins, like albumin, as a giant transit bus. The drug molecules, they're the passengers fighting for a seat. The second a drug enters your circulation, a portion of it immediately binds to these proteins, and it gets competitive. The stronger drugs literally grab the seats first.
The really crucial takeaway here is understanding the difference between bound drugs and free drugs. Those bound drugs, the ones sitting comfortably on the protein bus, they are actually completely inactive. They basically just act as a slow-release reservoir. The free drugs, on the other hand, are the passengers who didn't get a seat. They're the active ones. They're out there walking around, crossing cell membranes, binding to target receptors, and actually producing the medication's intended effect. And what's really cool is that over time, as those free drugs get used up, the bound drugs will step off the bus to replace them. It's brilliant.
Even still, those free drugs have to navigate some incredibly tough terrain. Distribution is heavily dictated by your tissue's blood flow and capillary permeability. But the ultimate boss battle? That's the blood-brain barrier. It literally acts like a highly exclusive VIP nightclub bouncer, woven from this super tight mesh of capillaries. It's there to protect your central nervous system from dangerous substances, so only very specific medications, like those made of lipids or ones that have a specialized carrier, can actually get past that velvet rope to affect the brain.
All right, on to Section 4, metabolism, the chemical plant.
Remember that processing plant we mentioned? Well, that's the liver, your body's ultimate detox center. Literally everything that enters your bloodstream eventually gets carried to this massive internal organ. And once there, specialized liver enzymes start performing these critical biotransformations. They break down the active drugs into less chemically active molecules, which we call metabolites. That way they can easily be excreted later on. But here is where it gets crazy. Sometimes the liver does the exact opposite. It actually transforms inactive ingredients into highly powerful prodrugs.
All of this intricate chemical processing ultimately dictates what we call a drug's half-life. Now, a half-life is simply the amount of time it takes for exactly half of the medication to be safely eliminated from your body. And understanding this, it's absolutely essential. Why? Because it directly correlates to how long a medication will actually keep working, and it completely dictates how often you need to take your next dose.
That brings us to Section 5, how age affects medication.
You see, this entire process doesn't look the same for everyone. It's heavily dictated by age. For instance, neonates and pediatric patients, they have immature livers and decreased body fat. So what happens? They end up with much higher levels of free drugs circulating in their systems. On the flip side, older adults naturally experience decreased body water, increased fat, and declining liver function. That means the drug actually stays active in their system for much longer, which significantly increases the risk of toxicity. And this is exactly why a doctor will prescribe totally different, highly individualized dosages based on someone's age.
So the next time you pop a simple medication, whether it's an allergy pill or a basic pain reliever, just take a second. Ask yourself, what incredible chemical calculations and microscopic transformations are happening inside my own body at this very second? It is truly a marvel of biological engineering. Thanks for joining me on this explainer today. We'll leave it there, but keep asking those big questions.